There's a big misconception in the building industry that all builders build equally, which just simply isn't the case. A lot of times there are problems with how builders build based on what's being inspected. So we look at this whole problem that we have in the industry in general. A builder will build something for a foundation, and you see on spec sheets a lot that says post tension foundation. Well, that doesn't tell you much because there's post tension foundation is referring to one part of the foundation. It doesn't refer to your whole foundation. Explain, you know, different methods of builders cutting costs that is not even recognized by the homeowner that's giving them a lesser house.
Well, if you're talking about foundation, it's a great place to start because there's several places you can do that. You can dig the foundation footing shallower, narrower, both of which will use less concrete. You can use a lower PSI concrete. Every about 500 PSI will go up about $6 a yard. A typical foundation might take 80 or 90 yards, so you can do the math there. If you were to just drop every house that you build in a year by 500 PSI concrete, it might add up to $20,000 or $30,000 in your pocket as a builder by the end of the year, depending on how many houses you build. The post-tension cables obviously do cost a certain amount, but once you get past that, you can make your stem wall shorter. You really should have a high enough foundation to promote positive drainage. Mm-hmm. But we see people, like even in some of the jurisdictions that require a certain height form board, we'll see them dig the ditch and push the form board down in the ditch. So, yeah, technically they're using a 2x12 and maybe a 2x4, but it's only 8 inches above the surface of the ground. So really, they're using a 2x8. But they can point to it. But it passes inspection. And so at the end of the day, they're saving themselves countless yards of concrete by doing it.
Talk about the fill, because a lot of times wood floor guys really get the blame for wood floors buckling. It isn't their problem.
It's subterraneous.
It's not their fault.
It's subterraneous moisture. So they recommend that you have about at least a 4-inch slab, and then under that you have a roughly 4 inches of granular fill, something like gravel, or we use screen-ins.
Which is kind of a crushed gravel.
Crushed limestone, a really fine crushed limestone. A couple reasons. Termites they like dirt, but they don't like rock. The other things, moisture has a path of least resistance that's not up.
And moisture doesn't wick through the fill.
Because I see.
So how do builders how do they get away with it?
It doesn't get inspected. For a great number of inspections in Tulsa, the type of fill that goes in your foundation is not an inspectable item. The International Builder Code may call for one thing, but if it's not being inspected, you're not going to be penalized for not doing it. And so if you use dirt instead of a granular fill, if you don't use a moisture barrier like 6 mil visqueen on top of that to stop any further moisture from wicking up through, you could probably save $1,500 to $2,000 a foundation as a builder. But what the homeowner risks is they risk that the inner wall plate, all of the boards that are on the concrete of their inside walls that are not required to be pressure treated, that they might fail prematurely.
We did a remodel once where we were tearing down a wall, and when we started tearing down things, you could literally put your finger through the 2x4 that was on the plate. The only way that happens is not having a moisture barrier.
That's right, yeah.
Want to go a little bit more into this with some more examples. So we're going to have a part 2 on this whole thing with how you cheapen up a builder access. We're going to get way beyond the foundation. We're going to do that in the next segment.